What's up, everyone, and welcome to ClearTalk. So, in this video, we're going to be talking about how it appears that there is an uprising in the nation that looks most certainly opposite of what the Trump and the administration and the MAGA movement, I think, would prefer. So, we're going to talk about that. So, thank you very much for joining me, and let's get to it. So, when it comes to MAGA, right? The their claim is that the idea is that they're trying to make America great, right? And they're trying to break. They think that bringing back these like old school fundamentals, these old times, which there's a difference in, I think, how some of them view that. Like, I think there's a faction of the MAGA that like looks at, say, the more say around the 40s, 50s, well, probably more 50s, 60s era, and look at that as like some kind of great era. But then you've got more of the, which I think is more of your like base part of MAGA, your regular everyday folk of MAGA. But then you have your elites of MAGA that are really just MAGA only in name of like trying to hold power and having that base influence or that base like support is more of like your Trumpers and stuff like that, who actually look more into the late 1800s or very early 1900s through what we call the Gilded Age and they call the Golden Age. That's the more era that they are looking at. So the idea is to move the country right or implement things in a right manner that will fix the country and bring everybody together, and everybody will realize that Republicans and the right extreme right ideology is the best, and that everybody's going to see it one day. We're just all blind to what they're doing, and ultimately it's going to fix everything, and we're all going to be better for it. Like that's the idea, right? So, and in that part of MAGA also you have the third sort of option, the third part of MAGA, which is more of the Christian nationalist thing that just wants to bring back, like wants to overrun everything in a more religious sense. When it comes to social things, or certain sectors, dealing with school or marriage or having children, all that kind of thing. The control of women's bodies and pre prayer in schools or the Ten Commandments or whatever, the Bible in school, all that kind of things. Which is, I feel like, kind of an oftentimes overlooked section of MAGA, but very much there and very much influential in unexpected ways or unexpected places, I think. But because of the other two being so extreme in how they're functioning things, when it comes to like foreign economic stuff or even like your immigration, all the kind of stuff like that, like if those things seem to take precedent or take like have a bigger in your face whatever thing than the whole like, I guess people have this opinion that they're not as concerned about the Christian nationalism side of MAGA because it doesn't seem as cautionary or as dangerous, because there are things in place that one would think would hold that a little bit better. But anyways, all right. So, but what we were seeing is there is a movement, there's uprising all across the nation, and people that are being, either already, or against Trump or didn't like Trump or were afraid of what he was going to do, your whole left side. But then also ones that are more independent that may have even voted, those that have voted for Trump, but because they thought just maybe because he's a businessman, he would help out with the economy and, with the business side of the government, make it a little bit better. I don't know why they thought that, but nevertheless, that's what they thought. And then, or, maybe they do have something concerning about immigration or the border, and maybe they thought, a little bit stronger, grasp on that, would improve things. But then once, like I said, we talked about in the previous video, once things are starting to be implemented and things are starting to be practiced by the administration, and people start looking at it and go, oh shit, that's not what I meant. That's not what I thought they were going to do. That's just like way beyond what you know, they start to have that negative, and even some Republicans it's the administration has gone so far that even some Republicans have started to be like, look, now I'm all for, uh, deportations and sending people out of the country and whatnot, but I mean, this whole El Salvador thing, this is crazy, or whatever the case. Like they're starting to see that, or even if they are to some degree sympathetic to the Israel plot and or whatever, but then when they hear something like taking over Gaza and it being owned by us and all that kind of stuff, they go, whoa, that's kind of crazy. Hold up, I don't think we want that. This administration has proved over and over again that they have no problem going past the limit that even some of their most conservative people would not, the red line that even they would cross. So there's an uprising going on in this country where you see the, protests. They're becoming more frequent. They're being placed basically on a schedule now, every 2 weeks or so from some, not the, in it's from some organizations, but there's others that are also doing, protest for specific things also going on all over the country as well. I mean, this is in all 50 states, hundreds and hundreds of locations all over the place. I mean, that in itself is enough to go, wow, like, that's pretty serious. I mean, you don't see that kind of stuff normally, to have locations over across all 50 states, like, and even, some supportive outside of the states areas, to have this. But then, of course, you have these town meetings that have been going on for a few months now, where you had the Republican representatives going back to their local areas, initially, and then you had all these like videos coming out about these, people going crazy in them and being upset about what was going on, and that was in the first, month or two, and they're throwing out there, Mike Johnson come out saying, look, okay, let's sort of pause on the town halls and meetings and whatnot, because this is we don't need this, stuff coming out like this, and people apparently are not clued in yet to what we're doing. So you just give them either that, let's give them a little bit more time to realize that we have a plan that's going to work, or they thought, we need to maybe, because they were trying to throw out there that, these were like Soros funded, DNC funded, like, people that were coming in and basically sabotaging their little town halls and meetings and whatnot, constituent, meetings and stuff. And that it really wasn't, it was just people that were being, protesting or whatnot and being adversary, and it wasn't actually their their people that, that if it was truly their followers, they'd be like, yes, go Trump, go, but then, so you've wound up having some of these ones here lately where they are starting to kind of cull through the people coming into the meetings and putting like restrictions on, them having to either be solely from uh, the district, and then also even to some degree, like, scouting down to, uh, anyways, they're trying to cull down to the point that there are only certain people there, or they think that only certain people are going to be there, so that they then, uh, they think that they will have their followers there, their supporters there, and then it'll all be good and all look good because people will be cheering them on. But then even after they have done all this, uh, restrictions and, trying to cull through people coming in, you're still having videos of these people angry. These are supporters. These are people who voted for Trump, and they're angry. And the backlash is becoming, undeniable, even amongst some Trump supporters. And we're seeing this movement where it's like, look, even those that are Republican going, look, I'm right. I'm right leaning, but y'all are way off the spectrum. Like, y'all are doing things that are way beyond what I approve of. Y'all, as much as I would like to say you're not fascist, and these people claiming it, they're just being hyperbolic. You're not helping, because literally do look like you're fascist. So what are you doing? What's going on? Why are we doing this? And so, you're making me look left. That's the crazy thing, is the administration has gone so far right that they're making their own constituents look like they are, what they would call rhinos. And it's certainly moving and pushing people further, in my opinion, to the left. It's making, or at least revealing or creating this movement in the left portion of the country to really show itself. And even to some degree, like I said, moving some independents and even Republicans. And I'm not even to say that they're technically moving them left, but they're making them realize, okay, like, it's starting to be clear that this administration and the people that have been put in place, even if they don't view Trump in that negativity, the people that Trump is surrounded by, and people that are doing these actions in these different areas, are making things look too extreme, and too crazy. And so I think that there's ultimately this sense growing in the nation, as you saw in the approval ratings a minute ago, that people are distasteful with what's going on. And so what I'm interested in is now how much that is going to start having an effect on what Trump and the regime. Yes, that is a regime at this point. Always was, honestly. And what they are doing, and how much effect and influence that will have on pulling them back, and whether it will, or if it's going to get to the point where we're just going to flat out have to try to remove them from office in order to stop them, because they seem to be willing to, thwart justices and everything to, continue doing what they want to do. Now, there's some parts that they are showing a little bit of apprehension in, but for the most part, they still seem to be focused ideologically on what we're attempting to do. And, I think it's going to take some extreme measures to pull them back. But I think that's what my point here is that I think that Trump and his regime and the MAGA movement in general are unintentionally moving the political bubble of America left. Which is clearly not what they would want to happen. And going against them. And ultimately, that's the reason why you're starting to see such a movement or a shift in ideology, even in media, where they're ones that you at one point would say like Bernie and AOC or something, they're radical and they're being they're saying stuff that is a little bit out of the norms or something, or too crazy for the nation to get around. We're not at that point, and they would even probably argue would never be. But now they're actually looking at Bernie and like what AOC and Bernie are doing, and they go, wow, I mean, maybe Bernie had it right. Maybe we should have went that direction all along. I mean, some prominent people even in media are saying this, even some that at one point were Republican or still are even Republican or were, supportive of Trump at one time, maybe in his first term or something, are now like, yeah, we might start needing to look at, and that's in a lot of Democrats now, because Republicans are not the only one, or the Trump administration and stuff are not the only ones that are looking bad right now. Even the Democrats are looking bad. I mean, it hasn't been up to the past couple of weeks here with the, Garcia issue that they have actually started, actively trying to do things. Up to this point, though, it was only Bernie and AOC out there with the Fight Oligarchy tour and getting thousands and thousands of people, at some of the biggest rallies he's ever had, even when he was going for president. I mean, and outside of them two, it was Walls and his little thing that he's been going around doing. They were the only ones that were actually acting like they were fighting or trying to bring awareness to what was going on. And that's the reason why you've seen AOC jump in the polls for, arguably 2028. And although they haven't stated it yet, or they haven't even really acted like that was the goal, but I think, in my opinion, that's ultimately very well could happen, especially if they continue in the way they're going. And people are looking more favorable to that. So I think there's a huge opportunity here where MAGA has went so far crazy extreme in the right that they have that they're ultimately, and what's inevitable really to happen when that happens, when people see how extreme someone can go to the point that it crosses most everybody's red lines, you move, or in order to fight that extreme, you have to kind of go a little bit more extreme in a direction than you expected to go. And that's not to, and yes, that would bring fear to some people, is that the people will go too far extreme. But I think they'll quickly realize that Bernie and the likes of Bernie and AOC are not extreme. And I think that's what people are looking at. They're going, actually Bernie and AOC are actually reasonable. They're not as extreme as people, as the MAGA people or something like that acted like they were. Or even your neoconservative centrist acted like they were. That they're actually fighting, and they seem to be fighting for us. And they're pointing out that, it's not us against each other. It's the rich against us. It's the wealthy that's putting against us. And that makes a lot more sense, especially when we're seeing Elon Musk up there tearing shit up in the name of trying to make himself enriched. I mean, so we're seeing this movement, and I think it is the prime time for the more social democratic faction of the Democratic Party, your progressive side of the party, can really have, I think, an even bigger advantage and influence uh, here and now in this moment than they even did back in the mid around 2014, 2015, and whatnot, and that early push for progressive movement with when that Bernie started then. It got squashed back then, but because of the pressure of the centrist middle dominance of the Democratic Party. But now the Democratic Party is, that's just such a low approval rating, and the Republican Party is also dropping dramatically because of the actions of the Trump regime. Progressives now have the opportunity, and looks like they actually are really going for it, to flourish and grow in this moment, to find some kind of dominance in the public arena, political arena, and hopefully have a solid and strong go at getting an opportunity. And that's what I really hope happens for 28, that we get Trump out of here, that, and hopefully try to prevent as much damage as possible that they could do. But then actually have a moment where we can have somebody in place, whether it be AOC or Walls or someone to that degree, get in office and show what and how you can really change, make real substantive change. And hopefully put all of this, the MAGA stuff, the neoconservative shit from Reagan and every all of it in the rearview mirror, and really actually start moving our country to becoming the greatest it has ever been. So thank you very much. Let me know what you think about it. This was really just an opinion video all around, but let me know what you think. And if you agree, disagree, whatever the case, have a discussion about it. Thank you very much. Until next time, peace. ClearTalk. I'm out.